Hello, everyone, and welcome to NYU Stern. My name is Bronwen Sanders, and I am a Director of Admissions here at Stern for Executive Programs. Today, I'm joined by Anindya Ghose, the Heinz Real Chair, Professor of Business at Stern, and our Academic Director for Stern's MSBA program. But before I get into the Q&A discussion with Anindya that we're really excited about, I'd first like to review the program at a high level. The MSBA program is a one-year part-time program designed with full-time working professionals in mind. We do require a minimum of 5 years of professional work experience post-baccalaureate by the start of the program. Our program blends both in-person and online learning divided among 5 modules over a one-year time period. Over the course of this one-year time frame, the entire cohort of students will attend modules that take place both at NYU Stern and in rotating global locations. And our international modules, which is fantastic, includes company visits, guest speakers, and local culture activities. So upon completion of the 5 modules in this one-year time frame and successful completion of a Capstone project, graduates are awarded a master's in business analytics. So we have one intake per year. So currently we're actually accepting applications for the class beginning May of 2021. So here you can see our schedule laid out. You can see that the module schedule is spread out through 2 calendar years, 2021 and 2022. So this way you're able to balance your vacation or your flexible work time between the 2 different years. We recognize your schedule is packed already, you have demanding full-time jobs, a personal life, and now you're adding a rigorous MSBA program onto the mix. So we intentionally structure the program to help you manage that balancing act. As you can see here, you have a few months off between modules. So you're not physically in class, but you're still engaged with the program through online readings and assignments, either to prepare you for an upcoming in-person session or to integrate the learnings of a previous session. And we estimate this work to be about 25 hours per week, and all activities completed asynchronously. So at this point, because this is what you've all been waiting for, is I am going to turn my camera on. Let's see. Okay. Oops. Sorry. Let's see. My camera. It's not cooperating. Thank you, everyone. There I am. Today, this is what we've been waiting for. Anindya, we're so excited to have you here today because the Stern MSBA program has become such an industry-leading program, and your insight in how the curriculum has evolved based on industry trends, as well as other factors that really make our program so effective among working professionals. So would love to really talk to you and start by just asking you, Anindya, if you could share with us some background on the program. You know, why did the Stern MSBA program, why did Stern decide to start the program? You know, what was the market need that the program that the Stern thought that was important for working professionals?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Bronwen. Great to be having this conversation with you. I would say, look, a few years back when we started this program around 2013, one of the things we realized was that companies all over the world, across a wide variety of industries, had been going through the beginning of a digital transformation, right? Basically, what that means is businesses were taking traditional business processes like hiring and marketing, pricing and strategy, and then using digital technologies to make things much more efficient and scalable and faster. And as this digital transformation was unfolding slowly but steadily, it also was quite obvious that organizations would no longer have to make important decisions based on hunches or best guesses or small surveys. Instead, they could actually start to embrace this culture of data-driven decision-making, where essentially they would analyze large amounts of data, real data, to base their decisions on real data-driven facts. And that's really what data science is all about. It was creating value through data, right? And if you going back in time again, at that time, at least around 2013 or so, there was no business school, at least none of the top business schools had anything remotely, similar to what was needed by organizations in terms of, recruitment and the skill sets and the employees, etc. And the traditional full-time MBA, while it has its own strengths, it's clearly not geared towards, training, specialists, data translators, data scientists, or business analysts. And so, we thought like this is a really good time, a good opportunity for us to be a pioneer, be an innovator across business schools, across the globe, in fact, and be the first, to put together this business analytics program. And since then it's been a resounding success, as you know very well. We've graduated 8 cohorts so far. We have almost 500 alumni in different parts of the world. So yeah, it's been a great run so far, and looking forward to many, many more years of this.
That's wonderful. And one question I want to put out to everyone that I neglected to say is, as you think, as we're hearing from Anindya, please feel free to type in questions, and we will have time at the end to have questions. But if it's a question just pops in your head, feel free to just put a question in the Q&A box. That would be fantastic.
Sure.
So, Anindya, we talk a lot about, what makes this program unique among different business analytics programs. And maybe you could touch a little bit about the curriculum, because we do in admissions get a lot of questions about the curriculum and, really what you believe makes our curriculum stand out from other programs, and high level, if you could.
Absolutely. So look, there's a few different things. First of all, we were the first, and we are one of the only, non-residential, non-full-time programs. In other words, what that means is every participant in our program essentially has a full-time job, or is maybe going through, different jobs, right? And what that means is, nobody's, the students or the participants are not in the building or in the program every single day. Rather, we, as you were talking about, we have these 4 different modules. Each module can be between 2 weeks to 1 week. And, essentially we have a pre-module, a post-module, and an in-module component. So, the opportunity cost for participants obviously is a lot less. If you're not full-time, you don't have to let go of your current job. You can do these things in parallel, and as you're saying, about 25, 30 hours of work in addition to your regular full-time job should be sufficient to get you, well sort of seated in this program, right? So, it's non-residential. That's a few things. Second is we have a year-long capstone program, and that's something we could talk about some point in this conversation. Most of the other business analytics programs have a much shorter capstone program. And why I emphasize this is, to me, at least the way when I envision sort of this program and, look at the curriculum, I truly believe that the capstone is the final sort of, instantiation of all the skills that participants pick up in the program, right? So, you go through like 17 courses in the program, and your capstone project is essentially an opportunity for you to showcase all these skills. Obviously at varying levels of depth and breadth, right? But you get a chance to showcase all of them. Now, some business schools have, a semester-wide capstone program that could be, 3 months long. Some have it for 2 semesters that could be 6 months long. For us, we are pretty unique in the sense that for us, capstone starts right from the first module. Okay, and it goes on to the day you graduate. So it's a full 12-month capstone project. And this is one of those things where, because you're actually applying these skills in real life with real companies, you're not in a simulation. This is all real data, real problems with real companies. 12 months is going to make a significantly much more impact than 6 months or 3 months, right? And so I think, that, we truly stand out in kind of, letting participants, essentially baptize right by fire, right? Day one, and you're thinking about how do I apply these skill sets in different programs. So that's the second one. The third thing, when I took over the program a few years back, one of the things I realized is, the program initially had been set up, like almost every other program, to focus primarily on prediction. In other words, focus on forecasting, and prediction and forecasting are important skills. But by 2015 or 2016, it was very clear to me, at least, that a very important skill in addition to prediction is going to be causality. In other words, explanation. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most important trends in the world of artificial intelligence is interpretable machine learning, or causal inference. And we didn't have sufficient, or rather any focus on sort of this causal inference. So over the last few years, I have sort of changed the curriculum in a variety of different ways, so that our participants, our students, can get access to both prediction and causality. And those people who are seasoned data scientists, for instance, you can talk to them and they will give you a pretty good sense of why causality is such an important part of any MSBA program, right? And then the final thing I would say is, we have two global modules, right? So, this year it got interrupted because of COVID, but look, hopefully 2021 is going to be a different year. People are already starting to get vaccinated. Hopefully travel will come back. So in a regular year, we have two global modules. One is in Shanghai and one is in Abu Dhabi. So I'm hopeful, quite hopeful that the cohort entering in May, we should be able to at least seriously look into both these modules as the economy opens up, as vaccinations spread, as we start going back to normal.
That's great. That's great. And a question that often comes up is, who might you, and there are some questions coming in related to this question, is who might you recommend the MSBA program to? Can you talk a little bit about the kind of person that you've seen maybe go through the program that has really benefited? And I realize that there's not one size fits all. We have such a diverse group of people that come into this program. So maybe you could touch a little bit about what you've seen in the past since the program's inception, the past few years.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question, partly because, like you said, we get an entire spectrum of participants. We've had people with as little as 5 years of experience to as much as 35 years of experience, over the program, right? Mm-hmm. And different people have, I would say, if I had to generalize across the different cohorts, there's a couple of different kinds. One kind is somebody who's already working in an organization that they really like to stay there, but they want to sort of pivot to a different role in that organization. So for instance, let's say you've been focused primarily on sales, okay? Or you've been focused primarily on, some basic aspects of marketing. But now using this degree, for instance, you can pivot to a more data-driven role, a more like a product manager role, for instance. But you want to stay in that company because you really like that company and you want to stay in the industry as well. So that's one kind. The other kind that we have seen are people who really want to make a significant career change, right? So maybe they have been in pharma industry for the last 10 years and now they want to pivot to a completely new industry. They want to move into consumer packaged goods, or maybe banking and financial services, or maybe tech consulting, right? So we've also seen individuals who use this platform and, obviously the alumni network to network and find new opportunities in a totally different industry. So, we see a lot of that. And really, I think, by 2021, it's seems like there isn't any major industry that's not been impacted by this digital transformation, which basically means that there is a growing need for data scientists and data translators, business analytics professionals. And the only sort of black and white one could say is that within this corporate world, you're probably going to be seeing more traction in the B2C compared to the B2B world. And that's just mostly because the B2B world lags about 3 years behind the B2C in any adoption of any new phenomenon, any new technology.
Yeah, interesting. not to put you on the spot, but Anindya, is there any, can you think of any, former students or people that you've seen successfully make, make some changes at their own company or move or pivot to a different role after this program? Have you, or gotten in touch with you and said, hey, this has really changed my way of thinking about my role?
Oh gosh, I mean, that happens all the time, Bronwen, right? So,
Yeah.
For the benefit of those of us on the webinar who are looking for such examples, you know how, Bronwen, we have our website, the MSBA website with the profiles of the alumni?
That's right. Yes.
I would definitely suggest that anybody interested in looking at the success stories or career changes or changes in trajectory, every year we highlight 4 or 5 or 6 of our like star alumni, and we've done this over the last several years. So I think that would probably be the best immediate resource to reach out and get a sense for how these examples have unfolded, what kind of changes. And then I always encourage prospective participants or even the enrolled ones, network with the alumni. We have almost 500 MSB alumni now. Everybody's on LinkedIn, right? In today's world, everybody has a LinkedIn profile. And, they are going to be a very valuable resource as you try to make up your mind about, is this the right program? Is it the right time, etc. Other than reaching out to me or reaching out to Bronwen or Neha, reach out to alumni, right?
Yeah. That's right. That's right. I will just reiterate that point. I think it's a wonderful point. I've been, having worked in the Career Center for Working Professionals, which is a support system of coaches that can help students in this program, as well as alumni, I would say that Stern and particularly MSBA program is a very giving group of alumni. They are always willing to speak to students about their experiences and how it shaped their careers. So yes, please do look at those alumni profiles, and I can also make recommendations of people to speak to about the program. So thank you for mentioning that. There's one question coming through, and this is, often a question that comes is, how would you feel about someone that may be coming into the program that has a good deal of leadership experience, but is, not as familiar with coding, maybe doesn't have as much exposure to Python and R, which we do favor in this program. Yeah. Any tips for them or, any advice for those people that fall into that category?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, in fact. And, just taking a step back, right? What are the kind of people we see, personalities we see in the world of data science and analytics, right? So, business analytics and data science can be, carved out into 3 pillars of, I would say, skill set. So there's this data analytics, which is basically prediction, causality, experiments, etc. There's data engineering, which is essentially a lot of, sort of baptism by fire into programming or, big data and Python and R and SQL. And then there is, the storytelling piece, which is figuring out what questions to ask, how to answer them, how to essentially tell the story in front of an audience that is interested in these insights, right? And so we see 2 kinds of people who embrace this program. The one kind is people who are very comfortable doing the analytics and the programming, but they're not super comfortable being the storytellers. They are not very comfortable getting in front of an audience, and that's fine because there's an important role they play. They act as, sort of the assist. If you think about a basketball game, somebody is doing the slam dunk. Maybe the storyteller is getting all the attention, but he or she got an assist from somebody else, right? And so the modelers and the programmers often act as the assistant to the storyteller, right? And the other kind is the storyteller. The storyteller is somebody who has strong leadership skills, very extroverted, very sort of excited to be under the limelight. But maybe he or she is not super excited about the programming or the analytics piece. And again, that's fine because there's a very important role they play, right? They're the ones who are translating the insights from the data into the actual actionable recommendations, right? At the end of the day, analytics and data science is teamwork. Okay? You will have to, no matter which personality you are in, you have to work with the other kind. And so for, we see both kinds of participants, a lot of our projects are group projects, meaning that, let's say you find yourselves not super comfortable in one area, but a lot more in the other area. That's where the teamwork comes in. You can rely on your teammates to help you and complement your existing skills, right? That said, look, when you're doing your coursework, you will have to spend some time, picking up skills that you're not super comfortable with, and there's no denying that. But I wouldn't consider the absence of programming as a huge impediment. Think about this, right? Like, yes, data science is not rocket science. It's all about diligence. Are you willing to put in the hard work and put in the hours, and are you curious and ambitious and driven to learn these skills? And if you are, you're going to be fine. Okay.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. And there are things you can do prior to the program, before starting, to really just get to a level where you feel comfortable to get the most out of it. I would love to maybe you could talk a little bit about going back to Capstone, because it is such a big part of the program. Anindya, can you think of a particularly impressive Capstone project over the last few years that students have worked on that would really give the listeners a flavor of the kind of work that people put into a capstone and what that might look like?
Oh yeah, again, I think that's a great question, because we have a lot of great examples. Every year, our capstones cut across multiple industries. Like, for instance, for sure, every year we'll have several capstones on the digital economy, because we are in a digital economy. Almost everything and anything is being transformed by digital technologies. And so we see a lot of examples from the world of that's a demand estimation and customer segmentation. So last year, for instance, we had this fascinating capstone where this group of 5 people work with a really large nationwide retail company that has multiple chain stores, multiple both online and offline presence. And they did a pretty amazing job figuring out who are the different kinds of customers who go in the online world versus who go in the offline world, and who do both channels, for instance. Some people like to straddle both online and offline. Then based on that, they did a very important and in fact interesting exercise on price elasticity, trying to estimate how sensitive are customers to different price points for the products being sold in different channels. And from that, they could then, provide very actionable insights on issues like inventory management, or stockpiling, or preventing stockouts. So why I really like that project is, it sort of integrates, econometric techniques and prediction modeling techniques, both explanatory and prediction modeling techniques, but also in terms of the phenomena. There is a digital transformation piece of it. There is obviously demand estimation and marketing analytics. There's also price elasticity analytics, so there's pricing. And then eventually it has, direct implications on operations analytics. So, how should retailers be stocking their inventory, for instance? Okay, so I like these kind of capstones that can, again, integrate, multiple methodological toolkits, but also multiple phenomena cutting across different disciplines. And again, that's just one of several industry projects we get every year. Every year we get, just to take a different industry, for instance, sports analytics, right? So almost every year we get one on sports, and these teams are doing an awesome job, really, looking up what the state of the art is in that industry, and then going well beyond, what the state of the art is. So yeah, I think, lots of interesting examples come to mind. We've had use cases from the real estate industry. Real estate industry is being disrupted. Look at Zillow, look at Redfin, look at, Open, Chamath Palihapitiya's new SPAC. That's another fascinating space. There's a lot of disruption going on. Look at Compass. So I think, we end up getting some really, really good capstones. And frankly, Mike Lindo, who's my capstone co-director, he and I have a really hard time not giving A's. We're like, how can we not give an A to this group? And so at the end, we're like, how do we give some Bs? Because these are all of them are like stellar A+ products, right? That's our problem. Like, you know, we have to figure out not to give all A+ grades.
Right. That's a good, what sounds people just get very, you know, they're spending so much time doing it over the course of the year, it becomes an emotional component to the work that they're doing. That's fantastic. And then though, there are a couple questions with regards to, you know, given, you know, the MSBA students are on campus for specific modules throughout the year, can you talk a little bit about accessibility of professors? Are there office hours, or how might students that have questions, you know, really get in touch with professors in between those modules? Can you talk a little bit about that interaction?
Yeah, sure. I think, you know, obviously, you know, as a program director, you know, I try to make myself available 12 months.
Yeah.
When it comes to individual faculty, there is variation. You know, some faculty are a lot more amenable to meeting pretty much any time. Some faculty have more designated structured times. In general, my sense is that's not been an issue. You know, like going back to the last 8 years, I haven't heard any sort of complaints about faculty not being accessible. So what, you know, generally what happens is, look, you've got the in-class module that's usually a week or 2 weeks, during which we have, you know, full days of teaching, right? Most of the times, students may have questions that can be answered or that are relevant during the pre-module when they're doing the preparation work, or when they're doing the post-module. And that's just, you know, simply, I guess, you know, writing an email to the professor and saying, hey, I have this question, is it possible to set up time to talk? Or you can write to the teaching assistant. So, you know, I don't think we have sensed any sort of lack of accessibility. Yeah.
Great. That's great. And you know, one other question that has come up is, obviously I'll preface this by saying that every class is, you know, has a different professor and has different assignments. But can you give me a sense of, you know, we say there's about 25 hours per week of individual work between modules. Any, you know, obviously there are going to be some people that are working, you know, that are working full time, that are nervous about the amount of work involved. Any advice on, you know, people that you've seen do it successfully and get a lot out of it in terms of the program and the amount of work that they've put in? Any comments you have about that?
Yeah, I would say, you know, your best friend is going to be consistency, meaning that while it's tempting to, you know, postpone your assignments, pre-module or post-module assignments till the very last week, or, you know, till very close to the deadline, that's not always the best idea, because you're really then you're putting a lot of stress on yourself. You're trying to cram, you know, lots of hours of work within a few days, and you might be able to, you know, still successfully get it done. But I think the learning is not as well as when you do it consistently. So my general advice to people is, even between modules, when it doesn't seem like there's an immediate deadline, or, you know, the assignment is at least 3 weeks away, hey, don't wait till the last week or last few days. You know, try to build up to it, ramp up to it. And that's what I mean by consistently. So whether it's 25 hours or 30 hours or 20 hours, you know, you are the best bet of how much time you need to really internalize things. But, you know, phase it out and like spread it out over multiple weeks, rather than saying, oh, I'm not going to do anything for the first 4 weeks and then put in, you know, 100-hour weeks for the next 4 weeks. That's going to be hard. You know? That's why I say consistency and just, you know, a routine, a structured approach. This is going to be, you know, one very critical year of your time, right? I mean, you know, you're spending your time, you're spending your money, you're spending your energy. Make the most of it and be very disciplined about it. Structure, routine, consistency, and discipline are going to be your best friends.
That's great. Anindya, I'm just going to pivot just a slight bit in terms of we get a lot of questions about the alumni experience. I mean, one of the hallmarks of Stern is, when you graduate from this program, you're not only a graduate of the MSBA program, but you're a graduate of Stern, right? So you're tapping into a much larger network as well. I'd love to, obviously we've had some limitations in all being together and gathering in person this past year, but in normal times, what have you seen in terms of alumni gatherings or alumni connecting, whether it be through email or helping one another as MSBA alumni? I mean, I have my own thoughts, but I'd love to hear what you've thought about people making really strong connections that have met in this program.
Yeah, so I think look, at the end of the day, networking or sort of social networking is a very individual specific skill, right?
Right.
A lot of people are very good at it. Some people are not very good at it, but I always encourage them, start the process ASAP, day one, identify the alumni you want to talk to, connect with them. And sometimes, people like you and I can make introductions. Sometimes people will directly reach out on LinkedIn and make these connections. Look, maybe not every single alumni will respond to you, but I think you'll still get enough traction from the ones you reach out to. And we believe that we've had a pretty good alumni base that actually likes to help out each other. The other thing is, outside of MSBA, right, we have multiple executive degree programs, as you know, right? Common, there's EMBA, there's MSRM, there's MSBF. And again, I think, in general, it's really up to the individual to identify who these other alums are from the other programs, and then make the attempt to reach out to them and connect to them, right? Occasionally, when people have asked me, do you know somebody in this industry or this company? And it occurs to me that, yeah, actually, I know an exec MBA student, not an MSBA student. Once in a while, I make by email between an MSBA and an EMBA student, because, I spend a lot of time with the EMBA students also. I take them on these global study tours, and, I get to know them, become friends over time. So I think it really is, very sort of fluid, very organic, very, very sort of, there's no structure around that, right? So yeah,
no, I would agree. I think it's what you put into it, and I think there is support in place for advice and how to do that and the best way to approach people. So I'm happy to talk with people that have specific questions on the best way to approach their networking and their goals. Wanted to see, there are questions have been coming in as we've been speaking, and I think that we've answered quite a few of them. If I will say, if there's a question that hasn't been answered, I think it's more because it is more, geared towards your personal story or your personal background, and I'm happy to answer any of those questions myself, or someone on my team can answer more of those types of questions. Just feel free to reach out to us. But I would say that, Anindya, as an ending question, what would be the one piece of advice you could give to someone that's considering applying to our program at the MSBA program?
Right. So I would say maybe there's more than one advice I have to give.
That's fine.
And I would reiterate, a few things I mentioned before. One is, we have a large network of alums. We have almost 500 alums now. Before you make this decision, if you're on the fence, about whether to do this or not, figure out who is closest to you in terms of industry background or company background from LinkedIn, and reach out to them and ask them what was their experience like. So nothing better than talking to alumni, right? As you think about whether to do this or not. Now, once you've decided, let's say you already decided you're going to do this, then I would say, guys, it's very simple. My only advice is all hands on the deck. Okay, jump into it right away. Don't wait till the month of May. We're going to start the pre-module work in March. Okay, a lot of people, this is human behavior. I'm also guilty sometimes of procrastination. If I have something due in May, why would I start it in March, right? then we my advice is, guys, don't wait to the last week or the last month. Like, jump into it. We're going to release the pre-module assignments to you by the end of March. You're going to have 6 weeks, right? Pace it, right? And start getting into it. The early days are going to be very interesting because, it might seem like it's a lot of work. But if you pace it out over the 6 weeks before the module starts in mid-May, you're not going to feel as overwhelmed. Okay. Whereas if you wait till the last minute to start it, then again, it's going to just come down to you like a big tsunami, and which is not something I would advocate.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. And we do, we want you to know as well is that, you will, as soon as you're enrolled in the program, you work with a relationship manager, and our student services team is top notch, and they are there to guide you through the program, give you advice on, maybe Excel skills or stats to brush up on if you haven't been in school in a while. And, we're there to support you through this because we want you to be successful in this program. So Anindya, I wanted to, I'm going to just do some last minute housekeeping items, but I wanted to thank you so much for your help and guidance today and answering all these questions. I think it's incredibly helpful, and thank you for being such a fantastic academic director. I will just shout out that you are amazing on social media. So if people are not following you on LinkedIn, they should be, because you have done so much, and we are just so lucky to have you as our academic director. So thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
No, absolutely. I'm always delighted to interact on social media. You know me well, Bronwen. So not just on LinkedIn, but feel free to reach out to me on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I'm pretty
Twitter,
much right. Can I just
you covered it all?
We move
Please
on to
do.
I noticed a couple of more specific questions on my chat, and maybe I can just take a couple of those.
Of course you can. Yes, whatever you'd like, please.
So I see one question from Kikomori Sasada about, do we get to learn econometric analytics and other quantitative methods you mentioned in successful Capstone? Absolutely. So I love that question because this was, when I took over the program, Bronwen, a few years back, introducing econometric modeling, causal modeling, statistical modeling. This was a big sort of part of what I was excited about, because I wanted us not to be the world's best prediction analytics program. I wanted us to be the best in both prediction and causal modeling, explanation and forecasting.
Mm-hmm.
So the answer to that question is, in my digital marketing course, I introduced the basic econometric modelings to Komori. Then in module 2, Professor Rob Siemens builds on that with a full 2-day dedicated course on econometric modeling. And then in module 4, Professor Diego's further builds on the causal econometric modeling. So we really we have a presence of causal econometric modeling in pretty much every module, just like we have done the same with prediction modeling. Okay. I see another question about what are some of the newer curriculum changes you've introduced in the last few years. Okay, so the big part of the change was this focus on causal modeling, causal inference, field experiments, explanatory modeling, interpretable AI. The other big piece has been, we have really sort of taken a deep dive into modern machine learning using deep learning.
Yeah.
This year, for instance, we brought in Professor Ravi Bapna from the University of Minnesota, and he has a 3-day course. That's the longest course of this program, because I really want all of our current batches, all of the current students in the class of 2021 to be the best in modern machine learning. Okay, so machine learning has evolved a lot over the last 10 years. We had very basic text mining or data mining to start with, but in 2021, you cannot have a good program that just starts and ends with data mining and text mining. We really have to get inside modern machine learning, like deep learning, neural networks. So like Ravi's course is really focused on that. In module 4, we have Professor Shi Chen really building on what Ravi has taught and getting even further deeper into modern AI, artificial intelligence, broadening the scope of machine learning. So those are two major changes that we have introduced on the last few years, and I think that truly makes our program more distinct than many of the other programs. Okay.
No, that's incredible. And I know that you, it's without throughout the years, you've always been very, very good about continually updating the curriculum and making sure that you're really ahead of any industry trends. So that's thank you for. Was there another? I'm trying to see. There was other.
Bronwen, and this could be both you and I can take it. This was about the mandatory in-person attendance in New York.
Yeah.
COVID.
Yes.
I think I see May also asking that question about flexibilities to students in Asia. I think this is important for us to address it, and I can take a tab, and then you can build on it.
Yeah.
I can tell you,
please. Yeah.
Right. So guys, I can tell you what we did this year. So this year, obviously, there were a lot of travel, or last year rather, a lot of travel restrictions. So anybody who could not come in person to New York, for instance, was allowed to remotely log in from whichever part of the world they are in. Okay. So I know, for instance, if you're in Hong Kong or in Asia or in Europe, too many quarantine restrictions, too many travel restrictions, not a problem. You will not be able to obviously come here in person, but you can, still follow everything the curriculum by logging into the remote classes, because a lot of the classes were offered in a hybrid manner. Like the professor might be on Zoom. Some students are in the physical classroom in New York. Some students are remotely logging in on Zoom. Another version of hybrid is the professor is in the classroom, and some students are in the classroom. Some students are on Zoom. So we were, intentionally very flexible last year, and I'm pretty confident that we will follow the similar levels of flexibility this year, because while we are hopeful that by fall most of the world will be normal, but look, it's hard to predict, right? What if it's not normal by then? I will allow students to remotely log in and follow up their courses and so on. So hopefully that flexibility is helpful.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful. And if people have, obviously this is a very global program, which we really didn't touch upon, but we are recruiting for this program from all over the world. So everyone is in a different situation, has unique circumstances. So please feel free to, I'm happy to have individual phone calls with people that have concerns in terms of traveling to New York, or what that might mean for them in terms of maybe doing hybrid situations. So yes, thank you for addressing that, Anindya. I really appreciate that.
Sure. And another follow-up, I think, on that, are there online classes between modules? So the best way to phrase that is we have materials for students to absorb and learn between modules. So there's going to be a post module, which means follow-up work on the coursework that has just been finished, and there's going to be pre-module, which is work that for the courses that are about to be introduced to you. So what happens during the modules is people are basically spending those 25, 30 hours a week between the post module for the previous module and the pre-module for the next module. So really, it's not a much of a break. It's going to be quite busy. Okay? So I noticed that question. Let's see. There's another question about proficiency levels for R and Python. Again, I think I would say that a lot of our students come in with very little knowledge, if any, on R and Python. Okay, they may have had some other exposure to programming in the past, but not R and Python. But that's that's sort of the beauty of the way this program is designed. You have 6 weeks to ramp up, right? So R and Python are going to be introduced to you in module 1. You have 6 weeks to ramp up. The professors have, Professor Sosulski and Panos have been delivering right from the first year of this program. So they are seasoned experts on figuring out how to pace this. And then, a lot of what we do is we are going to give you sufficient exposure to the toolkits. But then the rest is up to you, right? If you are the kinds who are really passionate about, going from intermediate to advanced, right? I mean, by all means, we encourage you to do it, right? But also we have to be cognizant that not every participant has prior expertise or background. So we're not trying to make you the best in every skill set, okay? We are trying to, a master's program, it's not a PhD. We are trying to give you sufficient enough skills that you can then pursue whatever your career goals are. Okay. And that's the reason that a lot of the programming pieces are, generally my perception from talking to alumni has been, if you're willing to put in the hard work, you're willing to pull in the midnight oil and burn the oil and all that, you'll be fine. Okay, you just have to be, dedicated and committed to putting those hours every week. Okay.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. That makes a ton of sense. I think you've pretty much answered most of them. And some of the questions, Anindya, they're probably more individual questions from people's background that I will follow up with them on. But otherwise, I think we've gotten the majority of them.
Yeah, and somebody had a question about QS ranking, why we are not there. Two reasons. One is I believe they only rank full-time programs. And second, there has been, all the deans, and we have sort of internally discussed, we don't actually, I would say, how to best to put it, we don't believe that QS ranking is a good reflection of, the metrics used for ranking. So we actually intentionally decided not to participate in it. Even if you're full-time, you'll probably not be participating. This was the last conversation we had with some of the deans in the past. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see, I'm just scrolling through there's so many questions here, right? Like hopefully we've covered, somebody asked about Singapore as part of the global module. It's a really interesting question. Look, I love Singapore, right? I go there every year. Okay. Now, we already have a module in Shanghai, and part of the reason is, Asia is the future, right? Like, let's be clear about it. Asia is the forward-looking part of the planet. In the world of tech and AI and analytics, they are the crystal ball. So, that's why we have a module in Shanghai. Given that we have a module in Shanghai, we thought that other modules should be in Europe or Middle East. So while Singapore was a strong contender, we believe that, Shanghai overall offers, a broader scope of possibilities, including the presence of NYU Shanghai, that led us to decide on Shanghai. But yeah, I mean, Singapore is very exciting as well. Let's see. Yeah, I think, yeah, so Michelle had a question about data science, the role of data science in e-commerce. I mean, look, it's huge. I mean, I don't know how else to say it without stressing that in the world of e-commerce, analytics and data science is just massive. Like, and not just the big companies like the Amazons or the Alibabas, but, think about, if you're based in the Asia, this company called SCA, right? They're up against Lazar, they're up against Tokopedia, for instance. If you're in Russia, a company called Ozone. If you're in Latin America, a company called Mercado Libre, right? I mean, these companies are, doing a ton of analytics, not just because of e-commerce, but also because of digital advertising, where they can use customer transaction data from e-commerce to actually target, prospective customers with relevant advertising. And so there's this idea of, merging e-commerce data with advertising data and then getting the best of both worlds requires you to have people with expertise in data engineering, in data analytics, and in data programming. And that's why they need, that's why companies like Amazon or Alibaba or any of the other companies, they're hiring business analytics professional data scientists by the dozen. E-commerce is one of the most forward-looking applications of machine learning and causal modeling. Okay.
That's great.
So there's a question, I don't know if you know the answer, from Hari, saying that Hari Narayan, hi Professor, thanks for the session. Can we convert any credits to NYU Stern EMBA later on? Probably not, right?
No, no, they would be considered separate programs and separate application processes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so they would be separate.
Another question about when will the program manager contact us about visa, regarding the visa?
Sure. So once a student is enrolled Anika Maxwell will be in touch. The relationship manager will be in touch towards probably the next 2 to 3 weeks on visa. But if for the person that asked that question, please do, reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to answer your specific questions on your own situation.
Right.
There's another question with regards to Capstone, and I don't know if I'm not sure if you touched upon that about your criteria for choosing a company. I think what more is our Capstone is more about a top. I don't know if you want to maybe sometimes people get confused with when they think of Capstone, they think of working specifically with a company, but maybe we could explain it a little bit more.
Yeah.
In terms of what the Capstone involves.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Francisco, right? Yeah. So, there's two kinds of capstone, very broadly put. One kind of capstone is where you actually embedded within a company. So you're a 5-member team with an internal stakeholder in a real company and solving problems of mutual interest with real data from the company. The other kind is where you're not necessarily working with a company, but you have access to a publicly available data set from the internet or from another institution. In that case, those capstones often end up in a potential for a commercializable product. Okay. Again, it's entirely up to the team. We don't make it mandatory. Like, our goal is from that publicly available data or publicly available resources, we want to see you apply the skills in the program in terms of data engineering and data modeling and data visualization and storytelling. What you do with the final product is entirely up to you and your team, right? We obviously don't make it mandatory that there should be the end product should be a commercializable, patentable product or an app. That's a discussion that the team will have among themselves. I know, 2 years back, there was a team on real estate based out of London. They ended up having this, app at the end of the capstone. It was built on Shiny. Shiny is a programming language for building apps. And, last I heard, they were trying to commercialize that app as a new company that would disrupt the real estate space. Now, I don't have a full sense of how things transpired, but that decision to potentially take the capstone and commercialize that was entirely the group's call, right? We are obviously here to help them or support them in whatever way, but the decision or the path to commercialization, that's entirely the group. So that's the second kind of capstone. And, some teams choose the former, some teams choose the latter. It's really up to you. I see another question from Andrea. How and when are the groups defined for the capstone? So the way it happens is right on the first week, basically this is like baptism by fire, right? So you come in the mid-May, 15th May onwards. During that first 2 weeks, while you are taking the module 1 courses, you're also forming your groups. We let individuals form their own groups, and there's a very structured process to it. Each group can have 5 people. Each person brings in a different set of skills. We first ask each participant to describe themselves with the top 3 skill sets. Like, some people are great programmers, some are great in storytelling and leadership and teamwork. Some are good in analytics from prior background. You've got like 5 or 6 different skills. We ask them to rate themselves from each of these skills. And then we encourage that the 5 members of each team bring complementary skills so that, they can work cohesively as a team. All of this is happening in that first week. During that first week, we have 2 sessions in which first they will do a practice pitch where, some groups may have ideas already of what they want to do, and they're trying to essentially solicit, team members to join them. And in the second week, then they finalize the idea and they make this final presentation that this is a final group member, this is the final capstone idea. So I think the answer to your question, Anju, is all of this is happening in the first 2 weeks. Okay?
Yeah. Anindya, one of the other things is if you could touch upon, maybe we should go in a little bit more about some of the benefits you have seen when you have done the global locations, whether it be at Abu Dhabi or Shanghai. Maybe what are some feedback that students have given in terms of their experience when they do the global locations?
Okay, so the best feedback is I'm very good at picking rooftop bars. All right, no, just kidding. Okay, so look, Shanghai is typically our module 3, right? That happens usually in October. So according to the calendar this year, we have module 1 and module 2 are in New York. And then if things with COVID pan out, then we should be in Shanghai in October. Look, if you are on social media, you will see that I've spent a lot of time in China. I've been to China 32 times. I've worked with some of the biggest tech companies in China, Alibaba and JD, and name any company, and I've probably done some work with them. One of the most exciting things about the module in China is this global exposure. A lot of people have never been there, okay? And whatever they learn about China is from what they read in the New York Times or Wall Street Journal. And quite often, to be very accurate, the US media, the European media is not very accurate about their representation of what's really going on in China, okay? And in fact, they're always underselling the success stories. They're always underestimating the progress that has happened out there. And my goal is for you guys, to actually get exposed to the reality of how far advanced things are in China. Okay? Unless you've been there, you will not really fathom how far advanced they are. Advanced in many ways of life, not necessarily in every single sphere of life, but in many ways of life, right? So part of the goal is to get you exposure to that. Then, some of our professors, like Professor Arun, will often bring in guest speakers in his course in Shanghai. And we try to get guest speakers from, and last time we had it from Didi, right? Like Didi is one of the most advanced AI applications in the planet. So that's the other goal, that we want you to get exposed to some of the most recent advances in AI, tech, machine learning, digital transformation in China. And China is by far, make no mistake, they're ahead of every other country on the planet in all of these areas. So unless you go there, you will not really know. Okay. And then, of course, there's this the added benefit of being exposed to a new culture and new norms. So overall, all 2 years back, we had the student. He wrote a fantastic summary of his experiences from module 3. Bronwen, do you remember that? And he actually shared this on LinkedIn, and it went viral. And maybe that's something we can pick up again and send to anybody who's interested, right? So that's one. Then the module is in Abu Dhabi, and after Europe, and this is a much longer story. I know we are running short of time, but to me, the UAE is one of the most progressive countries in the planet. Very forward-looking. Sheikhs and I've spent a lot of time in UAE for both personal and professional reasons. The sheikhs in UAE are the most progressive. All the rulers or leaders in the Middle East. They were thinking about blockchain and AI 5 years before almost anybody else was thinking. And so I do want, ideally, the students in this program get exposed to what's happening in Dubai and Abu Dhabi and in the Gulf. And that's the other reason why we have this over there.
That's great. I think, Anindya, it looks like we've gotten most of them. And I'll just say again, if your question hasn't been answered, myself or Anindya, one of us will get the answer to you, because we want you to feel like you got everything you needed to out of today. I do want to just say that other thing is, I'll just give a commercial out for, we have 2 upcoming information sessions. Unfortunately, we won't have an Anindya on those. But we do have, if you have other questions that are more detailed with regards to your application, specific questions about your background, we do have 2 information sessions coming up on January 29th and February 5th. Just sign up through our website. And then the last thing I'll just say is, we do make rolling decisions throughout the year. And as you can see, I can't believe it's almost already February. And our next and final deadline is March 1st. So what I would say is start working on your application. If there's pieces of the application that you're still missing, but you feel that you want to get it in, please do. We'll work with you on that. And what I would say as well is, we are able to make decisions very quickly. So that turnaround is very fast for us. And, we have, believe it or not, pre-module work, as Anindya mentioned before, that goes out mid-March. So this will be here before you know it. Anindya, thank you so much. This was incredibly helpful. I learned a ton as well myself today, so that is fantastic. And thank you. And we look forward to everyone listening. Thank you for this wonderful, amazing participation we've gotten today. And if anyone has any questions, please do contact my team. I'll send everyone that came today an email of how to reach out to me and my team. And we're excited for next steps.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Bronwen. It's always fun to do this.
Yes.
And for the rest of you on the webinar, hopefully I'll see some of you in May. Good luck.
That would be amazing. Thank you again. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone. Stay safe.